meeting of the school board to order. It's 7 o'clock on Tuesday, November 9th. So welcome. We're going to start off by starting with item 1, adoption of the agenda. This is for action.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any board discussion? Any public comment related to this item? Seeing none. Any remote, Renee?
No, Mr. Cassioppo.
Thank you. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item 2, please join us in the flag salute. Don, if you would lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 3, Superintendent's Report. For information only, Richard.
Thank you, President Cassioppo, board members, community members, welcome. We've got some special guests with us this evening. I would like to invite Coach Blair Roman to come forward, and he has some other special guests with us tonight and their families, and we'd like to pay tribute to retiring coaches of the men's soccer team.
You need to use the mic for recording purposes. Yeah, if you push the button, the bottom will turn green, or the base of the microphone will turn green.
Okay. Thank you very much for recognizing me. In my role as athletic director at Carson High School, in which I've served in that capacity since 2016, I've had the honor and pleasure to supervise 2 gentlemen who have made a major contribution to our school, made a major contribution, I believe, to our community. Head coach Frank Martinez, his assistant Jorge Ortiz, who have been our boys soccer coaches since 2015 actually. They've been in our program for quite a while. And Frank has served as our head coach since 2016. He's had great success on the field as a coach, but in my opinion has had great impact off the field on the kids that he coaches. And that's the main reason I wanted to bring here today. I also want to recognize his wife, Therese, who's in the audience, who also served essentially as the team mom in that capacity. And you know, Frank and Therese can have a challenging job as a head coach at a high school level, there's no question. And both Frank, Jorge, and Therese did a tremendous job at Carson, and I think it should be commended and recognized. The one thing personally I would also like to really impress upon everyone about Coach Martinez is, in my opinion, I've gotten to know a lot of people in my life in the coaching ranks. He's a gentleman who, in my opinion, represents the best in our community, the best in, you know, people that serve our high school. And I just want him to personally know that, how thankful we were that he put in the time and the effort that he did with our student athletes at Carson High in our soccer program. So my opportunity to publicly thank Coach Frank, Coach Jorge, all their efforts and their outgoing tenure as our soccer coaches as we look to start, I guess, a new era at some point here. And with the outgoing era that it was, I would love it if we could give these 2 gentlemen a big round of applause. I think they're going to want to ask. You want Frank to speak or ask questions?
Of course.
I just want to say thank you very much to Blair for all his support, to Jorge for the years that we spent together coaching. It was awesome. It was awesome. It was a pleasure. My wife especially, because without her, there's no way we could have done it. It's just to guide the kids, men, I guess, and to see them go. Most of them went to college. Some of them are actually playing semi-pro now for a local team. 7 of them are actually starting. But just to make a difference it was awesome, and we love the game. We love Carson High and the support. It was awesome. Unfortunately, like we do have families, and my parents are getting older, and I'm gonna take care of my parents now. Um, Otherwise, Carson High is my second home, and I just want to say thank you very much. I'm gonna miss it, but Blair, especially Blair, he was amazing, and he always had the support from Blair in the school. So thank you very much, and thank you, Jorge, and thank you for it's just an honor being at Carson High.
Yeah, thanks, Frank.
Yeah.
We appreciate you being a part of that and truly helping to guide those kids. I think anytime we can get positive role models and influences in any student's life is a good thing, and you guys have all been that. So thank you very much.
It's our pleasure, and hopefully we can find someone or some of the kids that we coach to come and coach now.
That'd be
Yeah.
good.
Any questions or comments for Mike?
So I just want to say congratulations to Blair and thanks for his service. And then Frank, you and Treese and your kids have been kind of fixtures in my classroom as a teacher. And so I know, I can only imagine the work you did as a coach. And so I think that you're going to leave behind a big gap there at Carson High School. So thank you for your service.
Thank you for those kind words.
I also would like
we're
to
very
echo,
pleased.
I would like to echo what Trustee Walker said. And in addition to that, I want to appreciate the hard work that you and your family did to make an impact in our community for our children, especially for males. They need a lot of role models. So thank you for your service and thank you for all you did.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Laurel.
Just before you guys go, can I get a picture of the three of you? Mr. Davis asked me to.
Thank you. Turn it on.
And thank you for all your hard work.
The last quick thing is I do have a personal gift that I'm presenting to Jorge and Frank as a small token of our appreciation, and thank you again.
Well, pretty much all I got to say is thank you. It's been wonderful. I think we've made an impact to a lot of kids, which is awesome. Through the years, it's been hard on some of the kids, which we're happy that we've had made a big impact in their lives. So definitely going to miss it, but I look forward to seeing my kids grow and coach them. So that's going to be my next task. So thank you guys for the opportunity. Hopefully I'll be back. You never know. I have my son here that I'm going to push to the limit. So I'm going to try to see what we can do with him. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your efforts as well. I believe your wife wanted a picture, so. For all our work and support on the soccer field, huh?
Mr. President, members of the board, we also received word that Coach Roman will be retiring as our head football coach. And I wanted to take this opportunity to also recognize him and the effort that he has put forward on behalf of many students, student athletes in our school district. Coach Roman has had the position of head football coach for 14 seasons. He has amassed an overall record of 81 wins and 63 losses with 6 league titles, 9 team appearances in postseason play. 2 of these appearances were in the state semifinals. He has had over 50 players that have gone on to play at the collegiate level. And he was named Coach of the Year in 2009 and Sierra League Coach of the Year in 2013, 2014. And while all of these statistics are very impressive, in my observation of Coach Roman, I think he's been successful because of the way he treats people. High school football is an intense game. There are lots of emotions. And sometimes when things don't go bad, sometimes coaches don't always show their best side. I had never observed Coach Roman in that fashion. I have been impressed during his entire career. I've never seen him in any kind of anger-filled or profanity-laced tirade, which I've sometimes observed in others. And I know he is loved and cherished by his former players and certainly has been a remarkable role model. And I've only ever observed him to teach football fundamentals, good sportsmanship, and good character skills of our young men. Coach Blair Roman, his legacy will be that of having developed one of the premier football programs in Northern Nevada, more importantly, as a developer of young men. Coach Roman will remain at his teaching post at Carson High, I'm happy to say, and he'll continue to support our young people in activities and athletics while he continues his role as athletic director for Carson High School. So, Coach, thank you for your service. Thanks for your inspiration. Thanks for just being a good guy and doing what teachers do best, and that's inspire young people. We'd love it if you'd say a few words.
Thank you. Been good. I wish I had something prepared. All I can say is thank you. It's been a tremendous experience, and don't regret one part of it. So I go out on a positive note and look forward to continuing my role at the high school that I currently have been serving in. It's a job that every day is a new day, and you better be on your toes and ready to go. So it's a lot like coaching that way. But you know, I probably the the greatest thing that I'm proud of, 2 things. I worked hard at it, and the results showed. And not just on the field, but with young men that you develop tremendous relationships with. So, thank you. Sorry, a little emotional, but there's other things obviously to that as well, but thank you.
That on. Blair, thank you for all your efforts. I mean, we really do appreciate all the work and service you've put in to help continue and build a great set of teams, and the way you represented Carson City in that capacity, and we're glad we're not losing you in the other capacities. You certainly have a lot to contribute, and we appreciate that. So, yeah, simply put, thanks for all you've done and will continue to do.
I'd just like to thank you, too. I know you've made a major contribution to our football program here. And I've had two nephews who played for you, and they have done nothing but speak very highly of you, and they actually love you. So thank you for everything you've done, not only on the football field, like you said, but in developing these young men to become fine young men. Thank you.
Any additional board comments? Okay. Thank you very much. Richard, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mr. President, members of the board, I have a few other items. As an informational piece here, 4 school zones will have shoulder closures and lane restrictions between Monday and Wednesday of this week. So for another day from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And the city is installing school zone flashing beacons in these areas and signs. And work is being performed on King Street, Bath Street, Mountain Street, and Winnie Lane. So we just ask that vehicle operators be alert, they be aware, especially when children are in the area. Also like to let the public know that Veterans Day will be celebrated in a variety of ways in our schools this week. First off, tomorrow at 8:45 a.m. at Bordewick Bray, and this is behind the school by the flagpole, there will be a veterans program, and we invite anybody who's interested to come by and observe our students. We also have on November the 10th, Wednesday, at 11 a.m. at Carson Middle School, there's a Veterans Salute concert. And as is typical at Carson Middle School, the veterans display is there, and we invite you to go there and take a look at some of the students or some of the people that students have honored who are veterans. So that's something to look forward to. Other events honoring veterans include Fremont's Veteran Tribute Video, and that can be accessed through the school's website. And then Eagle Valley Middle School also has a display that you can see just about any time of the school year in their main stairway. Also, there's no school on Thursday in celebration of Veterans Day. And then my last item here is the 3rd annual Warm Coats for Kids event. And that will take place on Saturday, November the 13th at the Food for Thought office. That is at 3246 North Carson Street, number 118. And that event will begin at 12 noon. And you'll probably hear a little bit more about this event a little bit later on. But this, the coats have been donated, made possible through a generous donation from clothesforsouls.org and Macy's.com. So that's my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Superintendent Stokes? Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 4, board reports. Board member comments. This is for information only. Let's start with Carson High School.
Hi there. So I'm Sarah Wiggins from Carson High, and a few things we have going on is fall sports are beginning to wrap up. Our girls cross country team got 6th in the state as a team, so congrats to them. And then we also have winter sports tryouts this Saturday, and to find out specific times in which sport, you can go onto our onto our website. And we just finished academic letter last week, which was last Wednesday. If you haven't gotten your award or certificate yet, you can go down into the guidance office to receive that. And then tomorrow, in our big gym during lunch, we are going to have 2 of our seniors be signing to their schools. So first is Katie Farnsworth, and she's going to be signing to Florida State for softball. And the second one is Lucas Haggart, who's going to be signing to Colorado State of Mines for golf. And again, that's tomorrow in the big gym. So we'd love to see your support. And then finally, next Wednesday, the 17th, is going to be our charity volleyball game against Douglas. And that's going to be at Douglas. And the charity is going to be, all the proceeds from the volleyball game are going to be going to victims of the Tamarack fires, since that has been an oncurring issue. And that is going to be 7 p.m. at Douglas High School, and it's going to be a $5 entry fee. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And I just want to say congratulations to those two students, Katie and Lucas. That's fantastic. I'm tied up in work meetings all day tomorrow. Otherwise, I'd certainly be there, but I just want to publicly congratulate the both of them. That's exciting. Do we have anybody from Pioneer? Seeing none, let's move on to Nevada Association of School Board update.
Okay, so I hope you guys are all registered for our conference this weekend, and that is the main announcement. So we'll see you possibly Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, but for sure Friday and Saturday.
Great, thank you. Move on to board announcements. Mike, let's start with you.
I have no report this evening. Thank you.
Stacy.
Bringing up the conference, we will be electing a new president, so I want to take this opportunity to thank Laurel for all of her leadership, dedication, and strive to make it through this year that we've had, including with depending on COVID and not being able to meet in person, and the other things going on with the other 16 counties. So we do appreciate your leadership and thank you for all your service.
Well, and it was also kind of nice having the president of NASB on the board, so I didn't have to do the NASB reports. It kind of made it easy for me.
Thank you. Don.
Just a few things from Dr. Conley, principal at Eagle Valley Middle School. His leadership group sponsored a great Halloween Nevada color-themed dance on Friday, October 27th. The kids had a great time, and there were some fantastic costumes worn that day. Today, all the cookie dough delivery was completed. And lastly, on October 25th through the 28th, they collected cans for the fish can food drive. And that's my report.
Thank you. Lupe.
So last Friday, I had the pleasure of going to meet with the principal from Empire Elementary School and Vice Principal, Mr. Brigham. They took me to a variety of different classrooms to go and observe the students and see what happens on a daily basis. I can honestly tell you they prepare a very busy agenda for me. I was there visiting all grade levels from kindergarten all the way through fifth. And I was very impressed with what our students are learning. They are being challenged in the classroom. I had the opportunity to observe their fourth graders dissecting cow eyeballs. It was super impressive to see them engage and really getting getting involved in the subject matter and very interested in what they're doing. The second graders are already learning the concepts of geometry. And then I also had the opportunity to observe Vice Principal applied his social emotional skills to address a problem with a student. You know, my perception was that we are really fortunate to have the quality of administrators and teachers in our district. Our students are very well taken care of. I also want to thank the teachers who allowed me or welcomed me into their classrooms. And forgive me if I mispronounce their names. Miss Lashley, Miss Kane, Miss Schuller, Mrs. Rex, Mrs. Correns, Mrs. Sicarelli, and Mr. Harley. I want to thank all of them for welcoming me into their classroom. So for Silliger Elementary School, they had a successful fall fundraiser event. They raised $10,000, so they're going to definitely put that money for good use for their school. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Laurel.
For Fremont Elementary School, Dr. Ward reports that they had 96% attendance for their parent conferences. And so they are really excited about that because they are really working with their families on attendance. She said they do have about 25% of the students who are chronically absent. So hopefully they can see some improvement with that with the parents attending conference. For Fritsch Elementary School, Mr. Brown would like to say that everyone at Fritsch is so excited that Mrs. Witowski has won the Dolan Auto Group Class Project Contest. So she will be awarded $10,000 to fund the band program. I believe she was looking for new instruments for the band students, and she'll be awarded that on December 2nd. And also, he would like to announce that the Turkey Trot will return this year, and that will be held on November 19th. So this is a run around the track activity outside for the elementary students, and they get prizes of turkeys and pies and other Thanksgiving goodies. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Richard?
Yes, before I start my report, I'd just like to take a minute to thank all our staff and community members who are veterans. You know, I appreciate their sacrifice and their service. And I know tomorrow we're celebrating their service, so I just wanted to mention everybody. I know we have quite a few staff members who are veterans, and some people on the board here are veterans, so just wanted to take the opportunity to thank them. For Carson Middle School, the boys' basketball season is underway, and games are being live streamed on cmnews.org in case you can't attend the games. And as Mr. Stokes mentioned, they're having the Veterans Day celebration and concert tomorrow at 11 a.m. It's out in front of the school. I've had the opportunity to go and view some of the placards that they put up. A lot of placards are up there celebrating the veterans. So I think if you have time, anybody in the community, if you have time, it's worth your while to go by and view those placards. And there again, the principal and the staff there would just like to thank the veterans. And they do a good concert. I've been to them before, and it's always a wonderful time. At Boardwick Bray, their cookie dough fundraiser is happening through November 15th. The money raised goes directly back to the classrooms to support field trips and activities. And all the money needs to be collected by November 15th, and the orders will be delivered before winter break. At 8:45, as Mr. Stokes mentioned, they're also having their Veterans Day celebration. I've attended numerous of these in the past years, and they always do a really good job. So anybody in the community or anybody in the staff that could come by, it's worth coming by and seeing that they're honoring the veterans. So, and tomorrow they're encouraging the students to wear red, white, and blue or camouflage. And that ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, I too want to thank the veterans. Being one, I have some degree of what everybody sacrifices, and it is a sacrifice, some more than others. And I just want to thank everybody for that level of commitment. It truly is an honor to be among them. My report, I received this earlier today from Pioneer. I apologize, I haven't reviewed it yet, so I'm reading it raw. On behalf of the Pioneer Academy 1 through 12 team and student body, we want to thank all our veterans for their service. Mrs. Bianca Dakin, a long-term sub of Pioneer, served in the U.S. Army with tours in Vietnam. The following staff at Pioneer High School were awarded grants from Donors Choose: Mr. Corbett, Mr. Jensen, Ms. Langham, Ms. Lockey, Mr. Jordan, and Mrs. Steinkraus. The Nevada State Museum awarded staff and students from Miss Allen's Spanish class with a certificate for their, and I apologize, Dia de los Muertos Ofrendas display. I am one who did not take a lot of foreign language in school, so I apologize. The volleyball and roller skating clubs meet twice each week. Pioneer is celebrating recent school-wide achievement and attendance increases with a school-wide barbecue for students and staff. The Pioneer Academy Talent Show will be November 19th. And last, Speech and Debate will participate in the tournament next weekend at McQueen High School. All four will be doing impromptu speaking on Friday and congressional debates on Saturday. So those are my Pioneer reports. And then I thought I would just mention that earlier this week, I had a chance to visit Seeliger Elementary School, chatted for a while with the principal, Mrs. Zona, and the vice principal, and then had the opportunity to tour 5 fifth grade science classes. And I don't think the kids have been taught this word yet, but they were learning thermodynamics. And for them, they were learning states of matter and properties, and went to 5 different classes and got to see the kids interact and identify various things. And it was nice to see. They were all pretty much engaged and doing a good job. So I just want to thank Seeliger for allowing me to interrupt their classes, if you will. And that concludes my report. So now we're going to move on to association reports, which is item 5. This is for discussion only. Do we have any association reports? Okay, do we have any remote?
No, Mr. Cassiopo.
Okay, thank you. So next we'll move into public comment. And for those who maybe weren't here last meeting, one of the requests we received when we're talking, if we felt comfortable, was to remove our masks so that we could be more easily heard. So that's kind of why I'm flopping it up and down. So board members, if you so choose while you're speaking, you're welcome to do so. We just ask because it is a requirement that, when you're not speaking, you do wear your masks. So we're in compliance. Public comment. Comments will be accepted in person or through virtual participation via email. Comments may be made by members of the public on any matter within the authority of this board. Please note that public comment will be taken on items marked for possible action. Before action is taken on such items, and members of the public are encouraged to comment on such items at the time they're being considered. Although members of the board may respond and discuss issues raised during public comment, no action may be taken on such matter until the matter is placed on the agenda for action at a meeting of the board. In making comments, speakers are asked to come to the table or podium, sign in, speak into the microphone, and identify themselves for record. Speakers are instructed to limit their comments to no more than 3 minutes, regardless of whether comments are made in person or through virtual participation, and to not simply repeat comments made by others. This item is for discussion only. As usual, anybody who wants to speak, we're going to give time to speak, whether or not you filled out a form or not. If you wouldn't mind filling out a form, we would have it for record and you could just leave it on the table. But I have one form tonight, so we'll go with that one first, and then I'll open it up to anybody who wants to speak. Lee, if you want to lead us off. I'm guessing you knew it was you since you filled it out.
I've been training people to do it, but I guess they just don't want to. Good evening. My name is Lee Elliott. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Sadly, this part of the Declaration of Independence that crosses my mind a lot because of what I see before me, not only in this room, but throughout the United States. And it makes me wonder if this is our only choice to get back on the path that will take us away from the corruption we see all around us. Ladies and gentlemen that have been elected to sit on this board, I come to you as a guest in your house. But as a civilian, I really have no say in the final decisions that you make. I just hope and pray that the decisions you make are not your own personal beliefs in these decisions that are made with the whole community, are made with the whole community and the morality that you grew up with. It is, if our illustrious government, if you want to call him that, decides to follow along with President Biden's mandates that all children be vaccinated before attending school, then you will have an uprising here in this state. And if you can't see the handwriting on the wall, then you're living life through rose-colored glasses. Already parents are sacrificing their careers and their money and the money they make to pull their kids out of school and homeschool, then in doing so, the schools are losing tons of money. The people up there in your seats have to make a very hard decision, and it's a two-edged sword, let me tell you, because one side, you are frightened of the governor and his mandates and the money that you would lose if you didn't follow them. And on the other side, you must know that if you require the mandate to be followed and kids start dying because of the vaccination, you will be held accountable in the eyes of the law. I've been told by a few of my sources that a member of the board here has put a title to those of us that turn up at the meetings as right-wing activists and are unopposed by anybody from the left. In other words, Democrats will let me tell you this. Most of the people that come here to this voice thing that we do here are independent voters, and they don't belong to a party. The one and only real demand that we have as civilians is that when you select as civilians to help select a new superintendent of schools, we want to be part of that hiring process. We are more than capable. And if by chance the governor redistricts our state and I am able to run for school board, I will be doing that. But I will not run against
Lee.
Richard Varner. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lee. Let's see, that's all we had for sign-in, so I'll open it up to anybody who wants to speak. And before they start, I just want to say, I'm that board member who made that comment apparently. I do apologize if I offended anybody. It wasn't my intent to. I was merely speaking with a group, and even though I'm up here talking in front of a microphone quite a bit, I still get nervous talking. And if I did offend anybody, it wasn't intentional, and I do apologize. I didn't get it, but that's okay.
Betsy Strasberg for the record. Middle of October, I sent an email to Mr. Stokes, the superintendent, and to all of the trustees. I really appreciate Mr. Stokes to reply to my email on October 20th. And at that time, the positivity test percent, this is the one important metric that the state of Nevada uses to let us know that it's safe to go outside. At that time, the positivity rate was 6.6%. I don't go to that website every day or every week because I don't want to be shocked at the numbers they present. But yesterday I did go in, and I'm happy to report that the positivity rate for Carson City County is 4.7. In the email that Mr. Stokes wrote to me, it said, students in the Carson City district will continue to be asked to wear face masks until our city-county transmission rate obtains a low transmission rate for 2 consecutive weeks. This condition was identified as part of our school face mask statement to the community. Well, the positivity rate for 1 week until Sundays, November 7th, was 4.7, and I'm hoping, praying, that the next one will be either that or less. I suspect it will be less. That would be the 2 weeks requirement that the state has established and that Mr. Stokes also reinforced. So I hope that there will be some means to go back to the board-approved reopening plan back in July. Hopefully expeditiously in the same way that the August change was announced through the Nevada Appeal article. That's all I had to say, and I have copies for each of you just to show you the trend. COVID's going to be with us forever. You know, it's a man-made genomic disease, but this is the second cycle that we are going through. We had the alpha cycle, This is the Delta cycle. The Delta cycle came back to the low transmission rate in 4 months. So I'm sure we'll go through many of these cycles in the future, and we'll have to go through these scenarios again. But it's important for us to be expeditious. Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. Thank you for the information. Next, we have Richard Nagel. No. Well, if item 10's, it's an action item, so yeah, you could speak to item 10 when it comes up. Okay. Thanks, Betsy. Oh. Thank you. Okay, next we have Jason Tingle.
Let me know when you're going there, Miss Laurel. Okay, hi, name's Jason Tingle, father of 4 in the Carson City School District. First thing I got to do real quick, because I do have to go over something. I'm a man of my word. Parents, I'm talking to you on this one. Equity. I did the research. I had a 3.5-hour-long meeting with a gal named Amy Reed, okay? I don't like anything to do with race, CRT, or anything else, so I wanted to know what it truly was. I figured it out. It has nothing to do with race, I can assure you that. I looked it up myself. Here's the info if you'd like it. It is right here. It's referring to people who don't have the resources in our school district, suburban areas, places like that. Okay, so we can drop the equity thing because right now it has to pass the curriculum in Carson City. These folks here have to actually vote on it and actually approve it to go into the system, so CRT is not here. It's nowhere to be had. That doesn't need to go anywhere, okay? Mask, though. We need to talk about masks. Lee, quit stealing all my talking points, by the way. Okay. I did get the stats for you. I've got last year's and I've got this year's, okay? And I have it for on track what we have. I'm going to give this to the school board because you guys want science. I have your science for you. By the way, Seeliger, there's my little guy, Bronx, 10 years old. You probably don't recognize his face because he always has a mask on, but you can see how handsome he is. So he wanted to come tonight and see what these were about.
I saw him, by the way, I saw him and he was doing a good job.
Yeah, he said he saw you. Seeliger, 5 reported total cases. Seeliger, 5 total reported cases. 48 at Carson High. This includes staff as well. 15, Eagle Valley. Empire, 11. Fremont, 6. This is printed last night. State of Nevada Department of Education, their website. This makes me really mad because this is showing last year's cases and somehow these changed from the time that I printed it a month ago until now, but I've got the case rates and transmission rates right here, you guys. Science is on our side on this. This is a mandate. It's not a law. I found this out today. I called the governor's office myself, okay? The mandate, we are not getting dinged. You can't get fined for it. We're not going to miss out on ESSR money because our governor mandated to us that we are allowed to, in this county, based off of science, we can call the shots. I figured this out today. This is from the governor's office. So I do believe we need to have another meeting about masks because I did tie it all directly into it. I've done my research. I've got, I don't know how many man hours into this, okay? With the limited time I have, we need to stop the masks. We need to stop. There's no way to prove that these children are getting it at school. A parent, a Karen, whatever you want to call them, cannot take you to court. They cannot prove that this virus came from the school. I promise you that. It will not stand up in court. No, I don't mean to call anybody out, but I'm sure Mr. Russell will be able to tell you that. That will not stand up in court. Here's your stuff. I would like to leave this with you guys, okay? Here's your science.
Thank you, appreciate it. While Jason's handing that out, next up, Joy, your turn, Joy Trushinsky.
Good evening. For the record, Joy Trushinsky. I came here to employ every parent, grandparent, administrator, teacher, and the public to do research on masks, experimental COVID-19 injections, and cures. For example, when you look up research on the effectiveness of masks against viruses, you will find many articles on the subject on the internet. But one I found dated March 12, 2021 was interesting, entitled CDC Report Admits Wearing Masks Provide No Real Protection. The article states on March 5th, 2021, the United States Center for Disease Control and Prevention published a report admitting that face masks do not provide protection against the Wuhan coronavirus, COVID-19, and potentially worsens infection risks. This was authored by more than a dozen doctors, PhD researchers, and attorneys. Currently, 8 states, including Nevada, still have mask mandates. The longer we comply, the more we will be controlled. The survival rate for COVID-19 per the CDC for the majority of children and adults is in the 99+ percentage range. The majority of children and adults do not need to wear masks as they weaken the immune system or need to take any of the dangerous, experimental, unnecessary COVID-19 injections because they can cause infertility, miscarriages, heart problems, neurological damage, blood clots, heart attacks, and death. All 3 injections contain cancer-producing material. We have therapeutics like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, and monoclonal antibody treatment, which are cures if not banned. If you end up in the hospital with COVID and they give you remdesivir, you may experience kidney failure and or other organ damage or have a heart attack. Death said to be caused by COVID may really be caused by this ineffective experimental drug. We, the people, must take a stand against masks, the injections, and ineffective harmful treatments. For those who want the jab and want to wear the mask, fine, but they are not for healthy children and adults. I say to all the parents, do your own research. You will find, like I have, that our government is lying to us. I pray you wake up in time before it is too late. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joy. Okay, that's all I have for sign-in sheets. Does anybody else wish to speak?
All right, so good evening. My name is Elizabeth. Is this on? Yeah.
Yes.
So this weekend, I found out that there's a hole in the roof of the high school. Did you guys know about that hole? And is it getting fixed? It's like leaking, and I talked to numerous high school students, and they told me that it smells like mold on the second floor of the high school. So I'm just wondering if it's, getting fixed or what's going on with it, because my daughter's allergic to mold. So, it really causes a problem with like her chest and stuff. So I'm wondering, is it getting fixed? How long is it going to take? Any information on that would be awesome, because my daughter's, all of her classes are on the second floor, and she has a couple right next to, I guess, where it's at, and it's really causing her some problems. And then second of all, what are you guys going to do when a whole bunch of kids, first of all, when a whole bunch of parents get fed up and they send their kids to school without masks? Are you guys going to suspend all the kids? Because it's a protest, right? And you guys had protests at the school when it comes to crop tops. This isn't a law, it's a mandate. So when kids go in and protest, are you going to call the cops on them? Are you guys going to have them arrested? Because I'm at that point with my child. I am done sending my kids to school with masks. The box that the masks come in say it does not work for COVID-19. So I don't understand why they're still wearing them. Aside from what this gentleman just said, which is, there's facts on our side. There's science on our side. The fact that you guys are still pushing it is really ridiculous. You need to unmask our kids. You need to let them breathe. You need to let them smile. Let them be kids. And what's going on with 5 fights at the high school just one day last week? 5 fights. Our kids are not safe in these schools anymore They've got so much aggression and so much anger because of everything that's going on. They're taking it out on their peers. They don't have the outlets. They can't do the stuff they need to do. You know, how are you protecting our kids when it comes to that? You guys are so worried about this virus and then, masking them. What about the physical altercations that are happening numerous times a day? Numerous. I would appreciate you guys really looking into that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Anybody else wishing to make public comment in person? Yes, please. Just again, please state your name for the record.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Jessie Tingle. Let's see here. I have a couple things that kind of lead into each other, and I'll try to go through this as fast as possible. This is a message on Parent Square from Lee Connolly at EVMS. The message reads, due to COVID restrictions, we aren't allowed to use the drinking fountains until further notice. It is the responsibility of students to bring their own water bottle. We will no longer be providing open cups or other water containers as they pose an issue of being more easily spilled. It's water. Just say that for real quick. On the CDC's website, the schools are required, schools can use a variety of strategies to ensure the water fountains are clean and properly maintained, provide access to water fountains, dispensers, hydration stations throughout the school, and then obviously allow students to have water bottles. And then one more, sorry. Per the Institute of Medicine, says children and teenagers should consume about 2 to 3 quarts of water a day, 1.7 to 3.3 liters. Does anybody know how much 3 liters of water weighs? It's about 6.61 pounds, okay? My daughter's backpack, I weighed it today, is 20 pounds because they're not having lockers, which she says because nobody will clean them, which hand a kid a Clorox wipe and tell them to clean their own locker. Anyway, so 27 pounds. My daughter is 85 pounds. That is 32% of her body weight that she has to carry around if she wants to carry the appropriate amount of water because the school is not providing it. That's illegal. You cannot not provide your students with water. And you know what she's told about the lockers? To carry less in her backpack. She has her laptop, she has notebooks, and a binder that is mandatory that she has for advisory and all of her other classes, not including the paperwork that she's given. This really concerns me. You're dehydrating our kids on top of forcing them in masks. There's a big problem with that. And I don't know how many parents know about the water, if any, but when I saw that message, I had choice words, to say the least. So that's my information. I have all of it on my phone, and the message is obviously on Parent Square from Lee Connolly. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Any additional in-person public comment?
My name's Heather Coe, and I promised my son I would come and talk about the mask, making sure that since there's no outbreaks, hopefully after you guys said the end of October, you would reconsider. And I am not the only parent. Every one of my son's friends are sick and tired of these masks. They cannot breathe in them, and it's horrible. They're unsanitary. And the other thing I wanted to mention is I know that there are a lot of different things that are going to be coming up, and I think that you guys need to post everything as far as anything that is outside of the realm of basic learning as far as math, English, whatever else, with the sex education and whatever Tasha Fusion is working on. Parents need to know, these are 12-year-olds on up that are going to be subjected to whatever they come up with. And I think it's wrong. I think every parent should be able to go online and see everything their child would be subjected to, books, videos, whatever it may be. And I don't think that there should be an issue with that at all. Parents have the right to know what their kids will be seeing and learning. And that's it.
Thank you, Heather. Anybody else for in-person public comment? Karen? Thank you.
Hi again. I'm Karen Stevens. Good afternoon, trustees, Mr. Stokes, and our esteemed public that took the time to come out tonight. I'm a longtime resident of Carson City, retired from the Department of Education, raised my 2 children here, one of which is an honors English teacher in middle school. And so I understand a lot of things that are going on in education. I'm here tonight as we still have the issue of the masking of our innocent children in the Carson City School District, which seems like that's what everybody else is here about, including the jab, which I'll deal with another night. Over the last couple of months, we have had public comment by doctors, nurses, and epidemiologists, scientists, and speech therapists, whom have warned of the harm that masks cause children. Simone Gold, with Frontline Doctors, describes forcing children to wear face masks is state-sanctioned child abuse. Masking children appear to do more harm to their development than providing effective safeguards against spreading disease. Holding waste, the human body is designed to expel waste through exhaling. Holding waste causes health issues by forcing the child to inhale the bacteria and viruses their body is trying to expel. Researchers have found that wearing masks reduce oxygen levels significantly by using an oximeter. The longer the duration of wearing the mask, the greater the fall in oxygen blood levels. Now add living at 4,700 feet with wearing a mask. That significantly affects children's oxygen blood levels. So I bought one of these oximeters to verify my oxygen level, and it's really easy to use. Takes 30 seconds. So I just think it's a good idea for people to start checking their blood levels when these children are being forced to wear these masks constantly for hours on end. It's ridiculous, and the parents, the grandparents, the citizens don't like it, and we need to stop it at some point. We do need to stop it, please. Anyway, maybe, as a last thought, think about your childhood where if you had to wear a mask.
Thanks. Thank you, Karen.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional in-person public comment? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Michael Rowe. I have 3 kids in Carson City Schools, one in Carson Middle, 2 at Fritch. They have yet to have any kind of problem or issue with masks. They wear it. I mean, they're not super happy about it, but they haven't reported any ill effects. I haven't experienced any ill effects. But yeah, they want to put it behind them, but also they're taking the steps to do so. Our oldest has been vaccinated. Our youngest are going to be vaccinated. They're going to start the process tomorrow because that's what we feel is necessary to kind of end this. And yes, COVID is going to be with us forever. It'll be the new addition to the flu shot, and people will get to have their choice of whether they want to risk it or inoculate themselves every year, just like we do with the flu. So, like, as far as the masks, we're fine with it to continue until, pediatric doses were distributed to Carson this week. I suspect a bunch of parents, other parents, are in the same boat, and they've been waiting for this for a while. So they just want the opportunity to make sure their kid is as protected as possible before any of the safety precautions come down. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Any additional in-person public comment? Okay, seeing none, we're going to close in-person public comment and go to remote if there's any. Renee?
Yes, Mr. Cassiopo, I have two this evening. This first one is from Fawn Lewis. She's a counselor at Carson High School. She's known Mr. Stokes since 1998 and has enjoyed working with him on and off over the past 22 years. She's found him to be kind, thoughtful, considerate person with a great deal of common sense. How many superintendents will you find who will get up super early on a bad weather day and drive around to check on the safety of the roads for our students? It's this kind of dedication that has made him a wonderful superintendent. He is willing to listen to both sides of any story, ask pertinent questions, then take time to respond. This measure of thoughtful consideration so that everyone feels heard and supported, regardless of the outcome, has made staff, parents, and the community appreciate the work he has done for Carson City School District. The dedication, common sense, and compassion that Mr. Stokes has shown this district is something I would like the board to consider when seeking a new superintendent. This comment is from Barb Mathers. Since the school board took away the option to share another person's time to have a total of 6 minutes, I didn't get to share everything I had prepared for the last meeting. Here's that part of the message. 2 school board meetings ago, I found out that fighting has increased at both the middle school and high schools after Jenny Cole spoke about the psychological damage that our students are facing. I sent out 16 emails to the staff at both middle schools and the high school with a link to Jenny's public comment, voicing my concern and asking that the schools are doing to combat the increase in fighting. I got one response back. The fact that our teachers, administrative staff, and school board are just now discussing the psychological damage our students are facing is infuriating. Also, for the people in this room and those who are watching at home, you are aware that the high school has 4 principals. There are fewer students than when I attended Carson High School 20 years ago, and double the principals. Talk about a waste of money that should be going to students instead of excess staff. A recent article in the Nevada Appeal titled CCSD Officials, Pandemic Possible Factor for Student Behavior Problems, shared more facts about the number of fights that have occurred in just 2 months of school. 14 fights have occurred on campus, including 9 freshmen, 10 sophomores, 11 juniors, and 2 seniors, resulting in arrests and citations. Some are even considered assault and battery, 14 fights. Principal Chambers said the majority of altercations are happening in the freshman and sophomore groups. Our 9th graders haven't been in formal school since the 7th grade. Parents, you need to have an active part in your child's education. My son attended Fremont for 1st and 2nd grade. His 2nd grade teacher never let me come in the classroom. Knowing what I know now, 2 years later, that was all kind of red flags. We need to be in our kids' classrooms, and I am all for getting cameras in the classroom. Please look up camerasintheclassroom.org from Nevada Alliance to learn more. I also want to share the link again to the video that the Douglas librarian made about critical race theory in our schools. rebrand.ly/CRTDCSD. Parents, please make yourself aware of what is going on in the classroom. One of the many reasons I'm homeschooling my kids is to keep them as far away from this as possible. Please wake up and help our kids before it really is too late. Too many students are suffering. I just found out this week about a friend's son who's 17. He was a straight A student prior to COVID and on track to wanting to become a doctor someday. He is now flunking out of online school and quite possibly won't even graduate. In a 2-year period, he went from straight A's, outgoing athletic student to a totally depressed failure who doesn't even want to have anything to do with school. Please learn from stories like this and help our kids. Parents, wake up. That's all I have, Mr. Casiopo.
Okay, thank you. Public comment is closed. And again, thank you, everybody, for your comments. We are listening. We're not always going to respond in the manner which folks want, but we are listening, and I do thank you for all the comments. We're going to move on to item 7, informational update on the McKinney-Vento students in transition program in the Carson City School District. This is for discussion only, and I believe we have Valerie Dockery who's going to introduce Christine Perkins.
Good evening, President Casiopo and members of the board and senior administration. I am just really pleased to be here tonight to introduce our new Special Projects Coordinator for McKinney-Vento and foster care youth. I am pleased to present you today Christine Perkins. Christy is a UNR graduate. She graduated from UNR in 2002. She went right to work as a teacher at Swope Middle School. And then in 2003, she moved over to O'Brien Middle School in Washoe County. And she was a teacher there for 4 years and then a dean. After that, she moved on to DePaul, and she continued a distinguished career as a dean and a vice principal from 2009 to 2021. So she brings to the Carson City School District a wealth of information, a wealth of experience, and she has hit the ground running when she came on board in July to take over these programs. And she's going to share with you some of the things that she's been doing today to streamline procedures, update forms and processes, and reach out to our community. So I am just really pleased to have her here. I also wanted to point out that Christy and her family are Carson City residents. Her children attend Fritch and Carson Middle School, and so she is also her and her husband are involved parents within our community. So again, I just want to welcome her again as a member of the Carson City School District family. Welcome, Christy.
Thank you.
And she has a PowerPoint she's going to share with you.
Thank you for having me tonight at the board meeting. I just wanted to give you an update. I know you haven't had an update on the McKinney-Vento program in several years. So I just wanted to make sure you were up to date on some changes we've made and what is going on with our schools. So as Valerie just explained, just an introduction to the board. I am Christy Perkins, and I think Valerie said everything there. I don't need to add anything to that. Tonight, I just want to briefly talk about what is the McKinney-Vento Act, the actual law that covers that. We will review the specific data from the Carson City School District that currently the students we have enrolled in this program, the services we are providing to these students, and some updates to the program. And then I just would like to also mention the community support we've already received since I've been in Carson City since July has been overwhelming, and we will take a minute to acknowledge that. So first, the McKinney-Vento Act is the educational rights and protections for children and youth experiencing homelessness is covered under the McKinney-Vento. A student will qualify who lacks a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. This includes students living in motels, hotels, trailer parks, camping grounds, cars, public places, shelters, students who are migratory, abandoned, or awaiting foster care placements, and students who are sharing the housing of others due to loss of housing from economic hardships. Some common signs of students in transition, and some of these are outward, and some are not as obvious to the members of the community, as well as teachers and staff. You might see poor attendance, gaps in the student's skills, lack of records to enroll, an inability to pay fees at the school site, fatigue, poor hygiene, outdated, soiled, or the same clothing over and over, unmet medical or dental needs, a lack of technology or access to technology, incomplete schoolwork, missing school supplies, a loss of items frequently, a short attention span, low self-esteem. You might see trauma, aggressive behavior, anxiety, a fear of abandonment, embarrassment or lying to protect their family, a difficulty socializing with same-age peers, clingy behavior, not wanting to leave the school at the end of the day, or even old beyond years based on some of the situation and life experiences. Some of these, as I said, are obvious to the classroom teacher and some are not as outward. So students who do qualify for services will need to requalify each year. If they do meet the law, then they will be flagged as McKinney-Vento and Infinite Campus, so the staff who works with that child is aware of their current living situation. They will stay McKinney-Vento for the entire duration of the school year, even if their living situation does stabilize throughout that school year. They will stay in the program for the school year. The student will be able to attend their school of origin or where they enroll. Even if they move out of that school zone, we will keep them at that school if that's what the family and the school decide is in the best interest of the child. The student will be enrolled in school immediately, even if they're lacking paperwork required for enrollment, such as the proof of residency, medical records, birth certificate. And then we will help them to obtain these documents so they have them in their school file and they can move forward with their education. The student can also receive transportation to and from school if needed. The student will receive free school meals. And the liaison, I will remove barriers so the student has access to the same high academic rigorous curriculum as their peers by providing school supplies, waiving of school fees, any clothing or shoe necessity, vouchers, community resources, and access to other enrichment opportunities within our community and within our schools. So how we go about qualifying these students is through the Student Residency Questionnaire, or the SRQ. There have been some updates to this form, and it is part of the enrollment process when parents do the online registration each year. There are questions regarding your living situation, and if they answer yes to the question that they are lacking a fixed, regular, adequate nighttime residence, then they're prompted to complete the SRQ. The office staff is amazing at helping families complete this and recognizing those families who are struggling with the enrollment process or obtaining documents. And that's a kind of a red flag to all of us that we need to assist them in getting in school. The updates to the form here have just made it a little simpler for families that once they fill it out once, it populates the other areas and it just can come right to me electronically, or some come in the mail, some come faxed. Whatever way we receive them, we accept them. And then we go about reaching out to that family and verifying the SRQ to make sure they do qualify, working with the school social worker, the counselor, the support staff at the school to make sure that we are identifying the correct students and supporting them with whatever those needs may be. The second page of this form is just the student needs form, and that's an opportunity for the family to list any immediate needs that they may have. Of course, this school year, at the beginning of the year, there was a lot of need for backpacks or school supplies to get going on the year. And then as we've gone into winter, a need for warmer clothes or new clothes, a new pair of shoes. So they list this here, and then I do my best to get that to the school site as soon as possible within the day or within that week, if at best. So now we'll review our actual data for right now as where we are in November 2021 in Carson. So you'll have a handout and then also in the PowerPoint here. These are our current counts for the school year so far. Year-to-date totals, we are at 238 students district-wide who have qualified for the McKinney-Vento. And that is after they've completed the SRQ. I've reached out to the family, I've worked with the school staff, and we've verified that yes, they do meet the law, that they're lacking the fixed, regular, adequate nighttime residence. Now you'll see active in November, when you go to the far right of that chart, is 210. So 28 of those students have come and gone already this school year. They've been here temporarily, and they've moved out of the area. Some of those were fire victim students who we did agree as a school district that we would let them enroll. to provide some stability during that time they were displaced in our community. There are 11 students in that number who did enroll and take advantage of that. Some stayed only a few days, some stayed several weeks in the school district, but at this time, all the students who were displaced for the fire have since withdrawn. The other students that have withdrawn have all listed lack of affordable housing as the reason they have left the Carson City area, that they are not able to secure housing or an apartment or a rental, and they've moved to another location. And that has been a variety of places, back with family, Texas, Florida, across the country, California, Douglas, Dayton. It's been a mixed bag of answers, but all of them have been due to lack of housing. You'll see in this chart here that our numbers at the bottom, living situations, even though our numbers are slightly lower than previous years, we do have more students who have listed a motel or hotel as their primary residence. So overall, in the district, we have fewer students who have qualified so far for the McKinney-Vento in this point in the year. However, we have more in motels and hotels. And again, that goes back to the lack of affordable housing. We also have a higher number of the unaccompanied youth, and we're up to 19 as of today. And those are students who are living with a friend, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, an aunt, someone who is not their legal guardian, and those or students who've enrolled themselves just as being independent. Most of those students are juniors and seniors. We do have one who is only a freshman. So that number is a bit higher. Of course, this number fluctuates. It may seem on paper a little bit lower than previous years, but we have gone through each student and family who qualified in previous years through the help of the social workers and school staff and verified that they have secured housing and they no longer need the supports. There are new cases that come in every day. I get a handful each day, and then we take the time to really reach out to that family and see what we could do to support them and if they should be flagged as McKinney-Vento. Just some updates and highlights to the program, some new things we're doing this year. We did partnership, as was Mr. Stokes mentioned earlier in this meeting, with the 4Kids Foundation and Food for Thought and Macy's. And we are doing a Warm Coat for Kids event this Saturday. There will be 1,000 new coats that Macy's donated, and we unpacked them today. That is a lot of coats that will be distributed to these students. In the morning, we hand invited the McKinney-Vento and the Food for Thought children each got a personal invitation to the morning session, and that will be specialized to them getting a little more personalized shopping experience. They'll get to hand pick what they would like, walk around. They also will be provided a pretty nice goodie bag that has a lot of items that have been donated from the community: gloves, mittens, gift cards, hygiene items. So the experience in the morning, I think, will be very nice for our families and our students who qualify for that. The afternoon from 12 to 3 will be open to anyone in the community who has a need. It will be a drive-through event. They can just come through, tell us their sizes, and we will get them the items they need. Families who were not able to attend, we did arrange busing for Saturday morning to get those families there. School busing, the transportation department in Carson City School District is phenomenal and really has gone above and beyond for all of these students. Cherie and Terry, Mike, they just said, "Oh, we'll get a bus." I said, "On a Saturday, I can get a bus?" They said, "Sure." So they have been great to work with, and we will have families riding the school bus to get these items. Afternoon, as I said, is open to anybody, which is another really nice feature that we're able to do. Also, we did create a partnership with Classy Seconds. We are doing a voucher system, so families who do have their own transportation can be provided a voucher to Classy Seconds and pick out their own items, which I have found the students, secondary students, really enjoy that. They can, it's difficult for me to pick something that they like or fits, and the kids in middle school and high school, there's been really positive feedback about that, and from the families that they can get the items they need. That's been a great partnership. I also did create a Google form for teachers that I'm sending out monthly, and it's just some basic questions to proactively identify any academic supports, attendance, social emotional concerns, physical supports needed, on these specific students who are qualified in McKinney-Vento. The teachers, it takes about 30 seconds for them to fill out the form, maybe a minute, and then I'm able to share that data back to the administrators and the social workers, and we have a good snapshot of, hey, this kid's doing better, this kid really needs, to check in with the social worker more frequently, this child needs a coat. So we're just getting more proactive data, and I'm sending that out regularly. We also, as I already mentioned, updates to the SRQ, which simplified the process for families so they're not putting in the same information over and over and over and having to know their student's ID and birth date and all these things. The form is a bit simpler for families. And the website, the McKinney-Vento website on the Carson City School District page, you'll see in the next slide here. I did, with the work of the grants department, Sammy and the grants department, outstanding also, did a lot of work for this. We were able to link all of the community resources onto one page through the Carson City website. So a family is not trying to manage 50 different phone numbers and contacts and people. They can just go to the McKinney-Vento website and simply click on the link. And there's many pages here. This is just a snapshot, but there's food and shelter and housing and other things. And I think this has really simplified the process for our families who are already dealing with a lot, that I can just say, go here, and we can help them get all the information at one spot. So that's been, I think, a great change. Some supports we are currently providing. Right now, we have specialized transportation going for 14 students. As I mentioned, I know we're having a difficult time finding bus drivers, but the transportation department is doing whatever it takes to make sure these students are able to stay in their school they started in, for that stability, that connection with their teachers, and we're doing whatever it takes, running double routes, whatever, to get them there to their school site. I've provided clothing, shoes, coats, warm gear, socks, hygiene items, backpacks, school supplies, and many other items to at least over 250 students. We did have a surplus of items, and so we were able to put that out to the school district that if you have a kid in your class who doesn't necessarily qualify for McKinney-Vento but has a need, please let us know, and we've been able to support them as well. We've provided vouchers for glasses so students are able to actually see the content and access their curriculum. We've provided vouchers for laundry services, which has been appreciated by families so the student can go to school and feel clean and safe and accepted by their peers. Transportation, outside transportation provided for parents to be able to attend an IEP meeting, get to a medical appointment. We've had a medical emergency at a school where the parent had no transportation and needed to go pick up their child, and we were able to provide transportation so they could get there and make sure their child was safe, as well as getting parents to the teacher conferences. So that's been a great connection to the community and school. Document attainment, and getting that immediate enrollment, and then helping the family to get a birth certificate, social security number, those type of items. And then coming up in the spring, senior graduation needs will be assisting with cap and gowns, yearbooks, scholarships, and those type of items. As far as enrichment, 5th grade, we have a couple students who we were able to really had an interest in band at their school, at Fritch and Fremont, and we were able to rent the instrument for them with the funds we have in McKinney-Vento and get them in part of the program, and they could be part of the music program, which is great that they had access to that. We have several students who we've helped enroll in the Boys and Girls Club before and after school care and program to increase supervision so they are in a safe, secure environment. And this year we'll be able to increase our student senior scholarship program from $1,000 to $2,000 per applicant due to other grants that we have received and have been working to get. We've bought parents swim passes so the kids have something to do. More frequent and consistent access to the school social worker. I'm working closely with that group of professionals to identify those students who really need that daily check-in or weekly check-in or that connection to a licensed professional. And of course, coming up, we have 2 big events. We have the Holiday with a Hero shopping event, which will be in December, on Wednesday, December 15th. Students will be going to the local Walmart here, and the heroes will be shopping with them and providing gifts for Christmas. And then step into spring. the shoe event, so every student will be receiving at least a new pair of shoes in the spring. Community-wide, we have given several referrals to the Nevada Health Center school-based clinic for immunizations, physicals, well checks, or any other medical needs. And I think the website has been a good connection to outside agencies for shelter, food, mental health services, parenting courses, case management, and more. And support with the required forms. We have, as I said, all those unaccompanied youth. We're working with them so they can set themselves up for a stronger future, getting them enrolled in the right program. The doctor at the health center is willing to meet with them to help them navigate the medical field, the medical profession, and how that can be complicated, insurance and all those things. She is meeting with them independently to help them with all those forms and those other things. So since I've been in Carson in July, I just wanted to say thank you to the Carson community. It's an generous outpouring of support from the community. And as of July, I've received over $4,000 in monetary or physical donations, which will go directly back to the students in need. And it's amazing, people just show up at PDC and say, I ordered all these jackets for you and they're here, can you please get them to kids? Or here's the check, I just wanted you to do what you need with it. And the community has really been outstanding and just willing to help wherever needed. I would just want to close with saying I think each of us are an important piece in supporting students despite their current living situation. We are tasked with creating a safe, consistent environment leading to graduation, college, and career-ready individuals. And I hope that my work with this group of students will lead them there. So are there any questions?
Thank you, Christine. We'll go ahead. I'll let the board go first. Richard, you have something?
Yeah, I think this is a very important program. Thank you for your work in it. I just had a question. It's a good thing, I think, that we have less students in McKinney-Vento this year. But I'm wondering, is there less need, or did we change the way we're classifying the students?
I don't think there's less need in the community at all. I just think because I'm new to the program, I really took the time to go through each family and application and talk through the law. And if they met the code there that they are lacking that, they are qualified. We just want to make sure we have the right people in the program because, of course, it is a state-reported program and we are reporting those numbers. You know, we want them to be accurate. And I do feel with the work the social workers and the counselors and the school staff have done, I think our numbers are very accurate right now. Of course, there are those families that maybe are embarrassed and don't want to say, and I've really reached out to the teachers and said during the teacher conference week, if something comes up, please, in an IEP, if something comes up, let me know. I can call, I can meet with the person, and people have, you know, a kid that the parent checked no when they enrolled and they said they were fine. Then it came out in the IEP meeting of, you know, no, our water just got turned off. And so they were qualified right away. So I think our numbers are very accurate as of right now. And I think they will continue to grow as we go through the school year.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, and I just want to say that I know last year, for example, because of COVID, we had about 140 students who, from the previous year, were designated McKinney-Vento, and we found that they were enrolled, but they were not identified, and that was a big concern to me. And so we reached out to those 140 families, and none of them qualified anymore. So we really feel that we have the right kids in the program, that these numbers are very accurate. And I think also that we have really focused on the definition of what McKinney-Vento is. It is lacking of fixed regular housing. And I think that we're trying to get that message out there. Those are the students who qualify here. Not that you might be living with your aunt or uncle because it's a choice. It is lacking fixed regular housing. So we feel really confident in these numbers, that these numbers are representative of the homeless youth population in Carson City.
I just have one other quick thing, if I may. We have 4 unsheltered students. Are they still unsheltered? I mean, I hate to see them. It breaks my heart to think that you may have somebody living in a car, some student without shelter. So I'm hoping that maybe we had the 4 students who were on shelter, but now they're in some kind of shelter. Hopefully.
That is correct. They were unsheltered, and unfortunately, some of those students have been removed and are currently in the foster care system. Also, I'm the liaison for that program, and as of this morning, we have 36 students in Carson who are placed in foster care. That number changes, but we've been right about 34 to 36 through the school year. But yes, at this moment, they are currently sheltered in an environment that's sheltered.
Well, thank both you and Valerie for the work you're doing. Thank you.
Mike?
I just want to clarify something Valerie said. Students who are doubled up do qualify for McKinney-Vento.
They qualify if it's lacked fixed regular housing.
Well, if it's not mutually beneficial, but if a family is displaced due to trauma.
Yes,
they
that's what
would
I'm talking
qualify.
about. That's the
Yes.
same thing. But what I'm not talking about is this family that makes a choice to live in a multi-generational family.
Right.
Like there's an income there, and it's a choice that's how they want to live. We're talking about emergency situations, those kinds of things, correct?
And
I think we're
just want
saying
to
the
be
same thing a
really
little
clear
differently.
because for families experiencing that, they don't always want to come forward. So I don't want to discourage that.
No, we aren't discouraging that, but we are having those conversations when those families come forward to make sure that they actually do qualify and ask questions. In previous years, we haven't interviewed families every year. And so we are interviewing families, every single family, to make sure that we are serving the families who do qualify.
And you'll see our current numbers, we have 149 families who are doubled up, and that is their living situation. There was some confusion this summer during the enrollment process. If you didn't have your own address, instead of getting a form signed, and the proof of residency, some people were just saying, let's just qualify McKinney-Vento. So that was where there was a bit of confusion. And a funny quick story, I called one parent to verify, and she said, oh, no, my dad has a ranch. We have a beautiful home. We just moved here. We just haven't found our own home yet. But she definitely didn't feel that their family needed support or qualified. They just, were choosing to stay with family until they could secure a location. But many that is a reality of they cannot afford their own place at this time, and they are staying with family because they're not working or they're not able to secure. So that's still our highest number, of course, families who are doubled up because of economic hardship. But as I said earlier, the hotel motel number is quite high this year as well.
Don? And then Laurel.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for this very detailed report tonight, and thank you for your care and concern for these kids. Really appreciate it.
Laurel.
I just wanted to say thank you as well. I did volunteer at one of the Red Cross shelters for the fire evacuees, and I'm really glad that we gave some of those students an opportunity to spend their time in school rather than just in the shelter where parents were doing a bunch of other things and then being able to keep the kids entertained or occupied. And so I'm grateful that our district reached out to them. And then also, I really love that you do vouchers for glasses, because I know how expensive glasses can be for kids. And I know that it is such a benefit to them academically, socially, everything, when they figure out they can see, because many of them don't realize that they're not seeing clearly until they do get those glasses. So thank you for doing that.
I wanted to point out, too, that we have just a basic grant from the state of a little over $100,000 that pays, the majority of which goes to pays for Christy's salary. And so we're able to do all of these things because of the generosity of the community. We have a very large donation account in the Carson City School District for this program. So that's how we really are able to help out our students with all these other kinds of services. So our community's been really, really generous, and we really appreciate them for all of the contributions that they've given us, because those are the monies that are used to support these other things that kids need. It's not money from the state. It is money from the community that provides all those services.
Yeah, thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Christine. I think the fact that people are donating in the community is fantastic. I mean, I think we have fantastic community members. Quite frankly, we've got some real caring people we see here at these board meetings, meeting after meeting, that truly care. And we may not all agree on things, but there's a lot of care in this community. So I'm glad that a program like that is supported. I might have missed it, and I apologize if I'm asking a redundant question, but the Holiday with a Hero shopping program, do you have enough heroes and volunteers? And if somebody wanted to get involved, is there room for them to get involved, and how would they do that?
They would go through the Gonzaleses, and that is who is coordinating the event, Daniel Gonzalez, his organization. And the Holiday with a Hero website is active, and so I think you can volunteer through their website or get more information at least. But that they said they always are needing people. So that is December 15th.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I did want to point out
Valerie,
that
sorry.
Holiday with the Hero is going to be a little bit abbreviated this year because of COVID. I mean, obviously, we're happy to have the program, but students will be going out shopping and then returning to their schools with their gifts that they purchased with their hero, and then having their lunches back at the school. So if you want to come out first thing in the morning when Santa's there, you're all welcome to. And see them shopping with their heroes. It really is quite a moment. So we really appreciate Holiday with the Hero and everything they're doing for our students. But when they're done shopping, they will be heading back to their schools.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I've been involved in that before, and it's rewarding to be involved in that. So thank you. Okay, I think that's all we had. So we appreciate the presentation and the update. Moving on to item 8. Informational update on the preliminary 2021 cohort graduation rates for the Carson City School District. This is for discussion only. We have Tasha Fuson.
Good evening, President Cassiopo, members of the board, Tasha Fuson, Associate Superintendent Ed Services, for the record. Usually Dr. Medina does this presentation, but he had a class this evening, so you get me instead. We're going to discuss this evening our preliminary grad rate for the class of 2021. This is very preliminary. It has not been approved at the state level. They're doing them earlier this year than they normally do. We typically have this presentation in December. But the state has asked for this data and the verification about a month earlier this year. So the way we figure out graduation rates in the state of Nevada is we take the number of students in the adjusted cohort that has earned their regular high school diploma. We divide that by the number of students who were first enrolled in high school in 2017-18, plus the students who transferred out, minus the students who transferred into the cohort, minus the students who transferred out. So in essence, if we can verify that a student has left our district and enrolled in another educational program, we consider them transfer out. And of course, if they transfer into our district from a different district, they're in that cohort. So currently, this is our 6-year trend. You'll see Carson School District at the top. For the 2021 school year, we did actually raise our grad rates slightly from 84.04 to 85.71. We do not have Nevada, Clark, or Washoe's available yet, but when we get those, we will share them with you as well. So we're looking a little bit better than last year, but you know from last year's report that in the year 2020, we did have a slight decline from 2019. If you recall, the 2020 school year, we ended that the last 9 weeks of the school year, the fourth quarter was when we were on full remote in year 1 of COVID. So we did see a slight decline there. And then again, we're rebounding a little bit. However, when we break this down by our high schools, you'll see that both Carson High and Pioneer saw a decline in their graduation rate, but adult ed saw an increase. And I'll explain that. So we do have students that occasionally will transfer over to Carson Adult Ed, Carson Adult Ed, during their 4th year of high school. Sometimes it's a better program for a student, for instance, who might have a need to attend night classes. Or, for instance, Sam Santillo, as you know, is our director. He had one student that was enrolling into adult ed this year, and I called him and said, hey, this student is coming from out of district and going directly to adult ed, and the student is only 17, and why would we enroll this student? Well, she was a young mother with a 2-month-old baby, and her mom worked in our city, and grandma could watch the baby during the day, but the young lady could only go to school at night, and that seemed to be the best program for her under her circumstances. So there's just certain cases that come up in that way that that our folks in our schools, including, again, Mr. Santillo, will make the decision with the family that that's a good opportunity or option for that student. So that's why adult ed does have a grad rate. So you'll see the actual adult ed graduation rate increased substantially from 2020 to 2021. But Pioneer High School and Carson High School did decline. And I think that's where you're really seeing then those 5 quarters or a little over a year of that non-traditional educational program. So typically where our high schools, Pioneer and Carson High, will really dig in deep with some of our students who need extra support and be able to really help them kind of pull it out by taking extra classes or earning some credits for work experience, that kind of thing. Those were the extra pieces that became more difficult in the hybrid situation that we had the last year. So we are fully hoping that we will see a reversal of trends here. As you can see, 2021 is looking to have an all-time low graduation rate for both of our high schools since 2016. So overall numbers, as we had talked about in our district, we had 528 graduates. We had 88 non-graduates and 145 of those students who have transferred out. You can see the breakdown for those other respective areas. So that first equation that I was showing you, that's how you calculate that using those particular subgroups. I do want to talk briefly also about college and career ready endorsements. So I think it's important to note that that students have an option to graduate with different diploma types. So in our district, we do offer an adult diploma, as you know, through the adult high school, but also Pioneer and Carson High School can also award adult diplomas based on the student and whether or not they're admitted to the alternative program with each of those sites. But then we also have the standard diploma and we have the college and career ready diploma. The college and career ready diploma replaced what used to be known as the honors diploma, but has a few requirements for our students to earn that. So a student, in order to get a college and career ready endorsement, has to earn a total of 24 credits. 18 of those credits are for required courses, math, science, English, social studies, and a few other areas, but 6 of them are in credit or elective courses. Student has to maintain at least a 3.25 GPA on a 4.0 grading scale, weighted or unweighted, for all credits applicable towards graduation. In addition, a student must demonstrate proficiency in speaking not less than 2 languages or have earned not less than 2 units of credit to complete the required course of study, either in advanced placement, IB, dual credit, CTE, work-based learning, or world languages. So in addition to having the 24 credits in those areas, then they have to have one of these particular conditions met. In addition, a student must earn one or both of the following type of endorsements. So for the college ready endorsement, you'll see on your screen the ACT or SAT scores that the student has to earn for both English and math. And for career ready endorsement, a student has to either take the NCRCs, which is part of the ACT battery suites, the ASVAB, get a CTE skills attainment certificate, or an industry recognized credential. So what does that mean in our district? Well, for the 2019, I've got a 2-year trend here for you because it's only been in existence for 2 years. But in the 2019-2020 school year, you can see that we had 118 students who got the college endorsement. 55 of those were earned by the CTE credentialing piece, so that's where the 45.5% comes. We had 121 students earn the career endorsement. 97 of those were through CTE, so 80.2% of the students. So for last year, you'll see again the decrease in terms of numbers. So we had 100 students get the college endorsement and 99 students get the career endorsement. And again, that's just showing the difference between how they earned those endorsements. So what that means percentage-wise. So the class of 2020, we had 26% of our students who earned the college ready, and 26% who earned the career ready, or 52% of the graduating class of 2020 ended up with the college or career ready diploma. Class of 2021, this is where you're seeing that decrease more prevalent. 21% of our students were college ready, 21% were career ready, as defined by the previous slides. So 42% of our students earned a CCR diploma or a college or career ready diploma. The reason why I'm bringing that up is although we did see the decline in graduation rates, our senior class in our community, typically our senior class, our students when they graduate with really high standards and really high levels of attainment. So those are pretty strong numbers. Obviously, we've seen the decline. That's concerning. We saw the decline in graduation. So we know we've got our work cut out for us this year to be able to help our students reach that same level of success that they have in the past. But I felt this was an important piece to add. In previous years, we've not gone through the CCR diploma parts during our presentation. So I wanted to add that to the board presentation so we could start tracking that and you could see as a board how we're faring in terms of preparing our students for that higher level of graduation or higher level of attainment.
So Tasha, and another thing is the State Board of Education is setting goals for the state and really trying to get the percentage of students graduating with that career and college readiness diploma up. And so that was a goal we set probably about 2 months ago. So we will be hearing more about that as we go forward.
Thank you, Trustee Walker. Any questions?
Questions from the board? Seeing none, I just want to say thank you. It's good to have this information. I think we knew where things were going to fall this year, and it's unfortunate, but it's expected. But I mean, we're still graduating students at a high level. We certainly want it higher, but I think we're doing. I keep looking back, and just our offerings alone, setting aside the types of diplomas you can get, we have a lot of offerings for students. And I really think we do a really good job of giving these kids a track that aligns best with their interests so that they are motivated to graduate and hopefully move on to an arena that suits their interests. So thanks for the information.
Thank you, President Casiopo. I think one of the main challenges that we really saw come to fruition last year was many of our seniors went out into the workplace, as you know, when we went to the hybrid schedule. And that's one thing that we knew would have quite a substantial impact, especially on our students and that would typically get those college and career ready diplomas. They take extra steps to get that diploma versus a general diploma. And I think you saw some of the priorities change last year, that hopefully as we start to ease back into what we consider more of a traditional educational environment, 5 days a week versus hybrid, that kind of thing, hopefully we'll be able to reverse that trend back.
Question I had on the college and career ready. Do you have students that qualify under both, and are you tracking those students? Because sometimes kids who are going to college and meeting that requirement also earn their CTE.
That is an excellent question, Trustee Crossman. I have not gathered that data. I am sure that we can get that for you. We typically have both of our high school principals come and do a presentation in the spring to the board. So I know they will both bring to you additional information in terms of CTE, certificate earners. Typically, we do the breakdown by different subpopulations so we can see how our EL students are doing versus our non-EL, that kind of thing. So we will be bringing that information to you this spring. So this is just very, very tentative, if you will, data or raw data that we turned into the state again. So they'll hopefully be approving it on their end, and we wanted to make sure you heard it first before you read it in the newspaper in the next week. But we will definitely be getting you more in-depth data on those indicators.
Tasha, I have a question. Will you also be including data on the Jumpstart program, on the dual enrollment program?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
thank
Trustee
you.
Ramirez, we will do that.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, item 9, informational update and discussion on the grant-funded electric bus project in the Carson City School District. This is for discussion only, and presenting is Mark Kornick and AJ Fueling.
Thank you, President Cassiopo. AJ Fueling for the record. I'm joined up here by our Director of Operations, Mr. Mark Kornick. First, I apologize. I really wanted to have Eddie Grant Electric Avenue playing as we came up this evening, but I could not figure that out. And I want to thank Mark Kornick for his amazing artwork. He likes to work in neon acrylic paints and in his spare time put this together. So thank you, Mr. Kornick.
When did we start giving Mark spare time?
I apologize. We won't do it again. Yeah. So thank you for the time this evening. This is a project that really Mark and I have been working on behind the scenes, gathering information and a lot of meetings, a lot of talking, and as you know, this is something near and dear to Mark's heart, and he kind of started this process initially to at least take a look at this with some of the good relationships he has at NV Energy. So what this stems from is something that happened, a bill that was passed during the 2017 legislative session. And it was called the NV Energy Electrical Vehicle Infrastructure Demonstration Program, or the EVID program. And what that allowed for was for NV Energy, or I guess required, NV Energy would pay 75% of the cost of an electric bus, and not only the electric bus, but all of the associated costs that would come with it. So, and Mr. Kornick will dive into some of these things a little bit later. But clearly there's some electrical work that needs to be done, setting up a charging station, things like that. So we met with NV Energy a couple times early in 2019, but that 75% cost just really, while clearly that is very generous, and you'll see the price of an electric bus at this point is around $400,000. So it was not something, while clearly that's a huge discount and is very generous, at that time we had started talking about kind of future budget concerns, and so it just didn't seem like the right time to bring that to fruition. And at that time too, we were encouraged to look for other channels to help provide funding for this, and that was something that we were not successful with at that point. Earlier this year, we were contacted by NV Energy and the Nevada Department of Environmental Protection. So they stepped in, and with dollars from the Volkswagen settlement years ago, they then started offering a grant which paid for 40% of the cost of the electric bus itself. So their grant does not cover any of the infrastructure costs, but purely that bus cost. And fortunately, that actually worked out when you pencil this out. And I'll show you some of the numbers to end up covering kind of the balance of any costs that would be associated with this program. So based on what NV Energy is willing to cover with their 75% in this EVID program, And I should say as well, and I don't believe I said this, so we were looking at doing 2 buses in the entire project. So, and again, all the infrastructure pieces and things like that. So the cost with 2 buses and all the infrastructure is about $1.25 million. NV Energy will pay 75% of that, so it works out to about $950,000. The Nevada Department of Environmental Protection, they just look at the cost of the buses, and they are willing to put up to 40%. And so the way it worked out, they actually made available to us in the end, based on their initial estimates, about almost $400,000. But it wasn't necessary to ultimately cover the entire cost of the project. So with a project cost of about $1.25 million, the money coming from NV Energy are committed from them, money committed from Nevada Department of Environmental Protection. This is a project that we can pull off with the upfront of $0. So it's my kind of project from that standpoint. So just kind of looking at, why would we looking to go this way? So it so happens that Carson City is about the perfect place to do this sort of, or to run an electric bus route. We are relatively compressed in size, relatively flat, and they worked through some incredible amount of work, looking at every single bus route in the district, all the elevation points, time of day, and identified out of, I think, the 20 bus routes that we have, kind of 2 that would be the optimal ones for us to try this out on. So we already have that work done. As far as operational costs, so clearly you have your kind of the upfront costs, and that's taken care of. There are costs ongoing. And so their estimates, kind of within the same study that they did, they expect that per year, per bus, we would save about $4,000 as to what we would pay in diesel fuel. It is easier and cheaper to maintain an electric bus rather than a diesel-powered bus. So there will be savings on that side. One thing that comes with that is that we'll have to retrain, or not retrain, but do additional training with our mechanics in the bus garage. So that is something that will, when this happens, that we'll have to do that. And Bluebird, who's the company that will likely would purchase these from, they provide that. Ultimately, there's a battery, and we know those rechargeable batteries have to be replaced. Even with the cost of that battery, assuming in 10 years you'd have to replace it, the savings generated over time would more than cover the cost of replacing that battery. So it ultimately will be a cost savings to the district, or is expected to be a cost savings to the district, considering all those costs. Social costs, so don't exactly hit our bottom line, but kind of society's bottom line. They actually go through NV Energy and try to calculate out, based on environmental kind of economic models, what the reduced costs to society are. So I don't know, they're much smarter people in the world that figure these kinds of things out, but the estimate is about $400 a year, and is reduced social costs due to pollution and health-related concerns from that. And I don't want to say most importantly, but it's something I enjoy. Clark County School District and Washoe County School District are also getting 2 buses through this same means. But on a per bus per student basis, we will be better than them. And so that's always good. So I will turn this over to Mark, and I'm not sure which map you. Oh, sure.
Thank you, AJ. Mark Hornick, Director of Operations, for the record. I just wanted to point out on this slide, when NV Energy approached us, they said, well, go out and just get a rough estimate what it's going to cost to do this. And we said, well, how do we know that? You know, where are we going to get power from? Do we have enough power at transportation to do this? And so they took some of the numbers and helped us with this and said, you know what, you're going to have to bring power from Salomon, the other side of the tech center. And so I'm looking at this parking lot that I just repaved, you know, a couple years ago and saying, okay, we're going to trench all the way from Salomon all the way to transportation. And then we find a spot in there where we're going to have a couple buses. And then we don't have enough power at the building, they're saying. So it turns out a lot of those costs were really high. They're just saying, they said, give us a number, just give us a number, you know, go out and get estimates. So we did, and the numbers were high. So after everything calmed down and we went to the next phase, and they said, well, they had the application maybe 3 days, and they said, yeah, you can have the buses. So now we start narrowing those numbers down, right? So we had other consultants out there looking at it, and it turns out we can probably get the power right from the site. So we don't have to do this $75,000 worth of trenching. And by that time, the guy that I talked to in Salt Lake City, the Bluebird rep, he said, well, I'll give you a number on a bus, and it was $414,000, I think. Well, Salt Lake City School District was going through a bid process. So they went through the bid process. Bluebird introduced me to those guys, and now we can get their price through a joinder through the states, which is about $50,000 less each bus. So the price is now coming down into a lower area where NV Energy is getting a little nervous because we're not going to use all their money. They want us to use the money so that they can do it again this year, right? So it's a real interesting concept the whole time, saying, no, just pad it, you know, just pad it and send it to us, which I'm not used to.
Can't you buy some
doing.
like backup batteries, Mark?
Yeah, right. I know.
I mean, seriously, if they
yeah.
have the money, let's
Right.
do it.
I mean, we'd have to use them, obviously, right? Because they'd sitting there losing power. But so I thought that was really, really interesting. You go to maps, I guess. I'll just give you a kind of idea where things are going to happen on campus there. So you see the bus, what'd they call it? The bus park? I got my glasses on. Yeah. Bus park. Okay. So that brown building down at the bottom there is the bus. That's ROTC, and the white one right next to it is the bus yard. So originally we were going to put them where those pins are, right above bus park in a gravel lot. Yeah. Thanks, AJ. And then they'd have to back or pull in and then back out, because generally the charging receiver is in the front of the bus on these buses. But as we started going through the process, and we hired a engineer for this process, the same engineer that did all of our solar panels 10 years and 2 weeks ago. So 2 weeks ago is the 10-year birthday of all our solar PV arrays. And he found that there was a way that we could step down the power with different transformers on the corner of that white building there. And then we could trench across that parking lot toward the tennis courts and end up coming down between the two rows of buses and set the chargers right in there. And as we expand, you know, years down the road, we could just keep lining those chargers up. We involved Mike Zabo out there at the bus yard, and he was supportive of that. He thought that would be a good idea in that spot. So at this point, what we're looking at is needing to kind of formalize our contract with NV Energy, saying, yes, we want to go forward with this. And then they bring in the engineers, and they meet our engineers, and then they say, okay, here's what we can do. Here's the final project. Because they have costs involved in this too. Some of their costs are rolled up into this project, which is final hookup, those kind of things. let's see. What else do I want to say, AJ? I guess that's about it by now. It's a process, though. It's going to be months down the road before we get this finalized and be able to go out and do a RFP for a construction project, which we want to do in this and give people the opportunity to bid on the project.
And I just wanted to clarify. So this is not an action item. We're not asking for action on this, but really getting feedback. And are there any concerns? One of the things we have the ability, if for some reason we wanted to pull out of this, we can pull out. And so, but there's still a process going on. We're still gathering information, getting quotes. And so really this is an opportunity to let you know about all this. And based on what you see here, are there any concerns that you would have that we could go back, ask some questions, or, otherwise I think we would just plan on reporting back at some time in the future and maybe bring our rep from NV Energy, Charlene Booth.
It almost sounds like it's a win-win. I don't know, you know what I mean, for the district. I think it's a great way for those companies to get back and to support our students and families. So it sounds like a great thing.
One of the other things I would mention is that, and a requirement from the EPA through NDEP is that we destroy 2 of our diesel buses that are 25 years old. We're keeping them running as a backup, so that was kind of an iffy thing. But what we have to do is actually saw the bus in half and put a hole in the engine so that bus is no longer ever used. So it's part of the emissions thing that they're requiring. I mean, I'd like to keep the body of it and turn it into playground or something, figure out something for it. It's hard to get rid of it.
You can sink it in the detention basin at the back of the school as a reef.
I building off that too, just want to say, so our bus fleet, and so historically we tried to buy 1 bus every school year. That was the plan. We went through a process about 4 or 5 years ago, I believe. Ann Sear had some analysis done, and kind of based on our needs and based on our fleet, that if we could replace 1 bus a year, that would ultimately be the goal. When budget times about 2 years ago turned bad, that was one of the big things we had to pull out of our regular annual budget. So to some extent, this kind of replaces the last 2 years of buses. So it puts us back on schedule, which is a good thing. And the other thing too, our fleet itself, while we do have some newer buses, I would say 80% of our fleet is probably they are buses that are 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. So they're on that older end. They were all purchased in the very early 2000s or very late 90s. So it's a nice opportunity for us. I mean, in a lot of ways, but just from a practical standpoint of keeping up with the bus replacement schedule and taking care of some of those older pieces of our fleet, in the long run, this should be a good move.
Yeah, Laurel.
Sorry, just a question on the specifics with the buses. I know that some of our buses have the chains that are deployed by the driver. They don't have to be put on. Will these electrical buses also have that, or is that not an option?
I'd say yes, definitely. Yeah, because I think almost all of our buses have those now, because we started doing that a little bit each year. Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious, what's the price difference between a diesel-powered bus and an electric bus? I'm thinking for future purchases down the line.
Sure. The last diesel bus we purchased, which I think was 3 years ago, at that time was, I believe, $105,000. And I believe last year we actually got an updated quote, and we always try to just have a quote on hand so we know, in case the need arises. And I believe it was around 115 to 120. So it had gone up a bit. But yeah, I mean, it's an expensive piece of equipment. I mean, effectively the the electric bus is, about 4 times, really little, 3.5 times. But over time, and really most of that is that battery cost. That's such a significant piece to that. So over time, that should drop, but still on an upfront basis, clearly the diesel bus is still a cheaper option.
Has there been any studies or any estimates of how long electric bus lifespan would be, for lack of a better term?
I think mechanically, it would be the same. I mean, and Mark may be able to speak more to just the electric motor piece versus the diesel motor, and maybe there's some there. The battery itself, they do expect a 10-year lifespan under most conditions. They think, if I recall, they think just because of kind of the way, the types of the routes that would be run in Carson City, that they could probably squeeze a couple more years out of it at that point. Mark, I don't know if the engines.
I would agree with that. We have a couple different terrains here in town, right? So going uphill, going up Coombs Canyon, up that way is more drag on the bus, but coming down, it actually regenerates the batteries, recharges the batteries as it comes down. Most of our routes are pretty flat in town, though. So, and technology with batteries is going really quickly. I mean, if it's 10 years this year, it's 12 years next year.
Yeah, sorry, Laurel. Or not Laurel, Stacy.
So, would these be able to be used for like our field trips or our athletic events that we have? I mean, they're farther distance than running them in town.
Typically right now, you could go to Douglas, we could go down to Douglas and back, but you couldn't like take it to California. Depending on charging too. And that infrastructure is getting better all the time as well. So, if you want to go down the electric highway to Vegas, you probably could do it, and depending on how quickly, if along that way they have the quick chargers or slower chargers. One of the advantages that we'll get with this is a special rate. So it's roughly around 4 cents a kilowatt. And you figure in your home, it costs you about 12 cents a kilowatt, your power. So if we're charging these at night, it's only going to cost us that 4 cents. And we also, down the road, may have an opportunity, depending on our contract for net metering on our solar arrays, to use the arrays to recharge the batteries. Right now, it would take a discussion and negotiation with NV Energy because of the rates that we were given at that time in the net metering process, but it's a possibility in the future as this industry grows.
And Trustee Wilkie, if I recall, the estimated maximum mileage on a full charge when the bus is new, they say 125. So assume that is absolutely under perfect conditions. So maybe it's 100. And so clearly with some of the athletic events in the area, we could do that. At the same time, I think it might be something that we wait until the technology improves a bit to, we don't want to strand kids. But as Mark said, that infrastructure is growing. So maybe in the future that won't be as much of a concern.
And these first two give us opportunity to learn and train too, right?
And do they have Wi-Fi?
It's a good question.
That's
we want Wi-Fi?
Oh, we had a bus that was Wi-Fi.
Yeah, Raymond, our IT director, had won a grant, Google Classroom on Wheels, I think, or something like that. We haven't talked about that on these buses, but that would be a nice fancy addition, I think, to help out. And I think truly that that part of it is geared a little bit more towards like the athletic field trip type thing, so kids can work on their homework. But I would expect at some point in the future that'll just kind of be a standard accessory to our buses.
And it's not just athletics. I mean, there's speech and debate and band and all those too. That I'm not trying to limit it just to athletics, but there are other curriculum.
AJ, it's not an issue for 2 buses, and I like the idea. I think it's a great idea and a great opportunity. But just curious, registration fees for a bus that's 4 times as much. Do we get any as a school district? How does like vehicle registrations work for us as a school district? And what would this do to us if eventually we had 12 buses that were electric?
Is a school district exempt for their plates like other government agencies, where all you pay is, the registration fee, you don't pay the government service tax?
Okay, so we do get a good rate anyway.
But we're kind of, I don't think we know the exact dollar amount on that, but that
But
would
it's
be
not a
some
full
of-
registration fee
Right.
like I would pay for my vehicles.
Right.
It's,
Right.
okay. All right. Any additional questions for AJ or Mark? All right, thank you. Keep us posted. Okay, item 10, discussion and possible action on the process for completing the superintendent's annual evaluation for the 2021 calendar year. This one is for possible action, and I'll start us off just for the benefit and reminder for us and the benefit of the public. Every year we evaluate the superintendent, and we've used a form that has changed to some degree over the years. In the last few years, I think we've found something that generally works for us, but it's something that we want to look at every year. We want to make sure it meets the needs, it's current, and if the board wants to propose any changes to it, we have the ability to do it. Right now, the form, there's 11 categories. Each of them is weighted equally, and we can rate the superintendent, or we do rate the superintendent and have the choice of ratings that include superior, very satisfactory, satisfactory, needs to improve, and unsatisfactory. And then at the end, they get tallied up, and each of the trustees fill out this form. Renee, I believe, tallies it up, and then we see how it all shakes out at the end. We typically, in some years, we did this during public meetings, but it tended to, in my opinion, go on for a long time, and it didn't really give you the opportunity sometimes to have it very well thought out. So what we do is we task each trustee to take this home, fill it out. Renee holds us accountable and says, make sure you get this back to me by a certain time, certain date, so that she can tally them up. And then at that next board meeting, we read through this. There's categories that show how every superintendent voted and what the scores were and what the overall rating is at the end. So that's, in general, the nickel tour of how this works. And again, like I said, we've been using this form, I think, for the last few years. And generally it works well, but like all forms, there's always room for improvements and opinions on how it should or shouldn't be adjusted. So that's the reason why we bring it up today, to give the board an opportunity, and since it's an action item, give the public an opportunity to provide comment on it. And that's what we're here to do tonight. So with that, let me open this up to the board. I guess the first question is, does anybody on the board have any comments related to the form, related to the evaluation process that they want to bring up? Mike?
Well, I would just say that this is Rich's last year in the term. This is an instrument that Stacy and I worked on with Rich and Mike, and I think it makes sense to at least stick with this through this evaluation process.
Great, thank you. Stacy, I'm sorry, did you have anything? Well, I'll just go down the list, Don, or down the road. Don, do you have any comments? Okay. Lupe? You good? Laurel?
Yeah, I would agree with Mike. I think it makes sense that we've used this the last couple of this format the last couple of years with Mr. Stokes, and I don't think it makes sense to change it for his last one.
Rich?
I know last year we discussed possibly changing some things and we elected not to. I do believe, I'm probably okay with sticking with it this time, but I do believe that in the near future, we need to really examine this and come up with a more subjective or more objective way of evaluating the superintendent. This form here is pretty subjective. You know, it's just what's in our mind. And we got to come up with some kind of system where it's not so subjective. And that would be my comments, something we need to explore this next year.
And I guess I would just add, I agree, Richard's going to be retiring in June of 2022. So, you know, he's going to have a half a year working with us, and part of that time is going to be in transition. And so I do think, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the form, but I do think there could be some tweaks moving forward. But I agree, I don't think I'm in a position now to think I want to change it for Richard, but I would like to make sure we have something in place as we move forward with the next superintendent, something that the entire board is comfortable with. And in the end, if it winds up being very similar or exactly this, that's fine, but I think it's worth revisiting. Okay. Board, any last comments on this before I call for a vote and then call for comments? You know, later comments?
Just a request to Mr. Stokes. In the past, he has usually provided a one-page or a summary of where he's met the goals that he set forth and provided to that to us before we complete the evaluation.
Okay. Okay, well, this is an action item, so.
So, Mr. President, I'll move that we continue using this rubric for the evaluation of the superintendent.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Don, a second? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further board discussion?
But is that the actual item that's on the agenda? I think the thing is, what we talked about, it looks like, is what date we want it completed by.
Well, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, you're,
Right?
so the discussion and possible action on the process, and in the process, we should, you know, yeah, let me, I think it's safe to add to that we can discuss the date for this. That is an important topic, thanks. It's been a long day for me. So, okay, let's go back to that. I'd like to have this,
I
I'd like
think
to have
we
this
typically
wrapped
do
up by
it-
the end of the year.
Well, yeah, we usually do it in December.
Yeah. And keep in mind, I think that we voted that we're not going to have a meeting that the second meeting in December is not going to happen. So we have 2 meetings to get this accomplished.
So I'll amend my motion to include the superintendent's evaluation will take place in the first meeting in December.
Okay. So we have an amended motion by Trustee Walker. Sorry, Don, did you second it? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any additional board discussion? I'll just add to the discussion. I like that, but we're going to have to coordinate with Renee and get her this information at least a week ahead of that meeting so that, you know, our evaluation so that she can summarize things. Renee, does a week give you enough time, or how much time do you need?
Thank you, Mr. Casiopo.
Does an hour and a half give you enough time, Renee?
So let me look on my calendar.
I need to look at our calendar because our meeting is December 14th.
14th. Mm-hmm.
But usually, at least in the past, I think the president did review the compilations with Renee.
Right.
And then she will have to have them ready to be sent out by December 10th. So depending on when you would want to review them with her.
Yeah, Renee, just so you know, my personal schedule, I'll be out of town December 1st, returning December 7th. I'll be available December 7th. So 7th, 8th, or 9th would work for me.
So, Mr. Cassiopo, possibly as a suggestion, maybe I could provide the document that is approved here this evening, if that's the case. And I could provide that to the trustees maybe by the 22nd of November, and then ask that everything possibly be returned to me by the 1st of December. That would give me time to compile that information for your review upon your return then on the 7th in prep for the December 14th meeting.
That's fine with me. Okay, thank you, Renee. So any further board discussion?
Just for clarification, when will we receive the one page of your goals that trustee Cressman asked for? Just to have an
So
idea.
from Superintendent Stokes?
Mhm.
And I'm just looking here, Trustee Ramirez, at my calendar. I would shoot for the 30th of November, if that is acceptable.
Gives enough time.
Not if we have to have them to Renee by the 1st.
That's correct, yeah.
You make me work over Thanksgiving?
No, before
And
Thanksgiving.
that's my next best guess.
Before Thanksgiving.
I believe, how does then the 23rd sound of November?
Yeah, when you incorporate the holidays, it condenses things for sure, but if that, I know that's condensed, but if that works for you, that, I believe that's fine with the board.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. Any further board discussion? Okay, seeing none, is there any public comment on this action item? Richard?
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Richard Nagel. Basically, my background is in the culinary arts. I've been a chef most of my life. I was an executive chef grade 3 for Sodexo Corporation. I was an executive chef for Sheraton Hotels. And we had what we called criteria-based performance analysis. And in that process, everything that we did was weighted. There was nothing subjective whatsoever in anything that we did. Basically, we had financial accountability was a good percentage. We had self-improvement, which was another 10 or 15%. We had, again, services that we rendered that were cost-based. We had to show an improvement in those, but also we had to show training in the staff that we supervised. So I had training sessions with the staff to improve quality. I wrote job descriptions for the staff so that the staff knew what was expected of them. I used the cleaning, the health department regulations when they came through and they gave us an inspection report. I put those on everybody's task analysis so that we got, within 6 months, we got 100% on the health department inspections. But those things were things that we brought in, were part of my evaluation. So the health department inspections were, 20%. Staff improvement was another 20%. And then financial accountability was, where I was. And, a lot of places I worked at, I came in at a 40% food cost when I started, and I left it at 15 to 25. So again, these things are some things that you have to chip at. They're not, Rome wasn't built in a day. But again, if you can create these kinds of skill-based, criteria-based, non-subjective evaluations, this should be a no-brainer. You get the statistics from the school that you can already get from the financial people, and you just fill it in. But these things are hard that you have to figure out exactly where we're at. I mean, Again, it could be based on, one criteria could be how many people failed the basic grade level for English. That could be a skill base. Again, that could relate again to another area in mathematics, history. We could find out exactly where the flaws are, where we need to improve, and where we need to make it work. So this could be an excellent tool to improve the quality of education in Carson City. It's just an idea, and I just want to float it by. I'm sorry. I have an evaluation form when I worked for a company many years ago, and I'd like you guys to take a look at
Will
it.
do. Thank you. I do have to stop you, but yeah, if you would provide us that, I'd appreciate it. As I break my microphone. Thank you, Richard. I appreciate it. I'll get this to Renee, and I'll ask that, she copy it, and we can share it with the trustees. Any additional in-person public comment on this topic?
Betsy Strasburg. I too have developed these forms. I've given these forms and I've taken these forms. And the first thing that jumped out of me, and it took me a while to understand all the various categories that they have, that you had in the form, that there were no metrics in this form. So I'm glad that the board will look at revisions of these forms, because what is not measured cannot be improved. As a sales executive, for example, they may have a sales goal to improve 25% or a specific goal. So I think I'm glad that the board is going to entertain revision of the form. In the end, I know that, Mr. Casiopo, you mentioned that they are weighted equally in the current form. I do recommend, and I'm going to distribute this form to the trustees, that I saw 4 categories: leadership and district culture, instructional leadership, board and community relations, and operational management. And those were the broad categories in there, and you could possibly assign weights, because certain things in those 4 broad categories is probably more instrumental to improve the academic achievement of the students and make them competitive nationally. So I'd like to provide this document. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any additional in-person public comment on this topic? Okay, seeing none, I'll close in-person public comment. Renee, do we have any remote public comment on this topic?
Let me refresh, Mr. Casiopo, one moment, please.
Thank you, Betsy.
No, Mr. Casiopo, thank you.
Okay, seeing none, I'll return to the board. We do have a motion and a second, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate the input. Item 11, approval of the consent agenda. This is for possible action.
I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any board discussion? Seeing none, any public comment on this item?
Actually, I do have one. So, Elizabeth, for the record, just real quick on the, and now I know what the request for permission for student for exemption of the vaccinations, but you guys are the ones that approve those? It's nobody else. So if I come in with, my 1-year-old decides to go to school or has to go to school when he's 5, and I decide I don't want to get him vaccinated, I give it to you guys for my religious beliefs, and then you guys are the ones that approve it?
You
Pretty
don't-
much?
You don't give it to us. Well, I'll actually have to have Mr. Stokes get with you on that. I don't exactly know the process, so I don't want to tell you the wrong thing.
Okay.
But we can get to that information.
I would love that information just so that I have the knowledge of it. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Any additional in-person public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll close in-person public comment. Any remote public comment, Renee?
No, Mr. Cassiopo?
Thank you. Almost forgot where I was for a second. Okay, board, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 12, informational items. This is for discussion only. This is just information for the board. Any questions from the board on the informational items? Seeing none. Item 13, board request for future agenda topics. Mike?
So I'd like to revisit, we started discussing this last year. I'd like to look at possibly moving our meetings to once a month. So condensing the business and having one meeting a month. I think it'd be less wear and tear on our staff. And I think we can consolidate some of our processes and get our business done in one meeting.
Well, and I know that's come up. I know at some of the Nevada Association of School Boards meeting, and this is over the 9 years I've been on the board, the way other school boards operate and whatnot, there's ways to do that and still conduct the business we need to conduct. So I think it's worth talking about. So yeah, if we can, Renee, if we can add that to a future agenda, and we can work on when might be a good time to do it. Richard?
Mr. President, if we're able to do that, I would say in December, so that if we're going to make that change, we could have it in place before January.
It would make sense to certainly have it in place soon if we're going to make a change. One, it's convenient to start it at a new calendar year, but also if we're going to make any changes, it'd be nice to have something established in place before the new superintendent. So just a thought. So we can discuss that. Thank you. Any additional future agenda topics? Okay, thank you. Item 14, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.